Welcome to the next stop. We're at the main house of the original estate. This main house was built in 1897. It's right on the beach. We've been here since 1967, so this house really predates us. This house was owned by a family called the Boswell families, a very well-to-do Bahamian family who owned the whole stretch of Hog Island. Paradise Island used to be called Hog Island, all the way from a lighthouse down at that end to a reef on that end, from the shoreline all the way to the bay, a really big chunk of property. How did we get it? How did we get here? Part of Swami Vishnu's sadhana, if you were listening to my talk, sadhana tattva is rules of spiritual practice. Part of his spiritual practice was he was writing every night. And he wrote a whole book on yoga called The Complete Illustrated Book of Yoga. The teacher trainings that are here still use that book as their textbook. Well, it got picked up by Penguin paperbacks and it sold 2 million copies. He was on the New York Times bestseller list. He got to be famous. Yeah, people really wanted to know what yoga was about. So he was actually invited to go to all different places. One of the places he was invited was Nassau, Bahamas. So after he gave his talk at the British Colonial Hotel, a woman called Natalie Boswell comes up to him and says, "I have a giant problem." He said, "What's your problem?" She says, "I have a 19-year-old daughter that's addicted to heroin. I sent her to the Betty Ford Clinic in California. She came back, she overdosed, she almost died. I don't think she's going to see 21. So I sent her to Bern, Switzerland, to the best addiction clinic in the world. And again, within a day, she was on heroin. I'm desperate. Can you help?" Swami Vishnu said, "Sure." He said, "I need a secretary. I'm going back to Canada tomorrow. Pack your daughter's bag. I'm going to take her." So he takes this young heroin addict back with him to Canada. She was his secretary. She had to be with him pretty much day and night. And after 6 months of giving her pranayama exercises when she had withdrawal, he said, "You're okay, go back to your mother." So he comes back to the Bahamas again, a year after his original date, and Mrs. Boswell looks him up. And she says, "Swami Vishnu, it's a miracle. My daughter said she'll never do heroin again. She's engaged to be married. She has a job. It's like she's a different person. You saved her life. Do you have any time? I want to take you someplace." And where she took him was to this very property. Now, this 1897 house was not occupied at that time. It had belonged to her grandparents who had died. The whole 4.4-acre estate was in ill repair. But she said to Swami Vishnu, "If you would teach the same yoga that you taught my daughter, I'll give you a 99-year lease on this place." And we're in very, very high-end property. We got our neighbor down that way is Atlantis, $600 a night rooms. Our neighbors down that way are movie stars and rock icons, live down there. Yet here we are in this high-end Paradise Island property, thanks to Swami Vishnu.